What's up, guys? It's Tim here. I'm shooting this video because I wanted to take some time and kind of show some of the behind the scenes of how I produce a sermon video. Now, I don't do this as much as I used to, just because it's not part of my weekly routine anymore. I still do them every once in a while, but just when I need to experiment on something I'm trying and things like that. But for a long time, I had the role as a creative in my church to put out the sermon video every Sunday. So what that meant is I took the sermon video, chopped off any leading up parts to it, chopped off the end part of it, and produced the video. Now, over time, as my role at the church shifted and I was on staff and doing things like that, I didn't have the time to do that every week. So that was something that kind of came off my plate for a while, and it was a good thing. I needed a break at that time anyway, but I decided to put out this little tutorial to show some of what I use to get the sound that I got and to get the look that I got. Now, not everyone, or a couple kind of caveats to this and a couple of things you will need, and a couple things I'm going to be referencing in this video. The first is I have Adobe Creative Cloud. I have Premiere, I have Audition, I have Media Encoder, and I have Photoshop and Lightroom as well. But those main first three apps that I mentioned are the ones that I use pretty much every time I have to put out a video now. Even still with my weekly or daily vlog that I'm putting out, these are the applications that I'm using on the daily to make these videos happen. Now, this video isn't going to be just me sitting here and talking to a camera. I'm going to do some screen recording on my computer to show you how I do what I do. So let's jump in and get this thing started. Alright, so first things first, what we have here on my desktop, I have my sermon file. Now, this is the sermon from this past Sunday that my pastor preached. The first thing that I do is I open Adobe Media Encoder. Now, I have a preset set up that I use every single time I put a video through this software. What it does is it takes the video that I've now recorded and it up-reses it, which basically that means it takes the file format that it is and it makes it like a higher quality one, just so that when you go to edit it, it's a little bit cleaner. So I go to my downloads. Nope, that's a lie. Desktop. It's on my desktop, and I drag it, and I go to this new preset. So that goes over here. And I export this video. So this will be, sermon 2720. And we're going to export that. Cool. So that's going to export now. Now, again, what this is doing is it's taking the video, which I've already trimmed before, and it's outputting it, or it's exporting it again as a higher quality. Now, our sermon videos only export at 720. So what I'm doing now is exporting it as a ProRes file. Now, ProRes is, again, a higher quality video file, and it's going to make it so that when I go to edit it and I go to do some color correcting and things like that, there's just more file for me to work with. So we're going to let this do its thing. It'll be done in another couple of minutes. This step you don't always have to do. I like to do this because I like to have as high a quality file as I can have when I'm working in Adobe Premiere. Alright, so we've got our file now fully exported. So we're going to open Adobe Premiere. We're going to open New Project. It immediately goes to. Just going to drop this in the Downloads folder. Sunday. So now you can name this file anything you want. I use take it or leave it. So we have our project now named. So here comes our window. Now you're going to notice when I edit video, I tend to stay in the effects pane. That is because I do a lot with effects. So what I'm going to do now, import the file. The way I do that is I go into import, I right click, I hit import, then I go to where my file is. There's my file. It is an 18 gig file. That is because, and just for sanity's sake, what it started at was 322.9 megabytes. What it ends up at, now this is because it's again a high quality version of the video, is 18.21. Now that's not what you're going to export and put on YouTube. We're going to do something else to it before we get there. But now you're in Adobe Premiere and you have your file imported. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go up here to File. You're going to hit New and you're going to go to Sequence. In Sequence, there's a whole bunch of presets you can use. I don't like to use the presets though. I go to Settings. I make sure that is set to Custom. And I go to 1920 by 1080 and I go 59.94 frames per second. Everything else seems to be set right. Take it or leave it. Week 1. Cool. So now we have our sequence. So we take the sermon and we drop it in. Now here it says that the clip does not match the sequence settings. Now it doesn't, because what we have is a 720 clip going into a 1080 timeline. So we hit keep existing settings and you can see it doesn't fit the whole window. That's okay. Right click on the sermon, go to scale to frame size, and that will fill up the whole window. Now, not everyone's going to have to do that. If you're already recording in 1080 by 60 frames per second or 1080 by 30 frames per second, your video should automatically fit. This is just something we have to do because we use a live stream, and our live stream feed is only 720. And when you download the video from there, it only downloads at 720. So I can hear the audio here. I don't think you're going to be able to hear the audio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my typical edit that I normally do. Now there's one thing I do if I'm going to do any kind of color correcting. I go to new item after I right click in the import, in the file section, and I add adjustment layer. I make sure that that's the size of my file. And I take it and I drop it right above the file. And you can zoom way in. And then just extend that guy out. Cool. Now why I do that is if I'm going to do any kind of color correcting or anything like that, I don't want to be editing right on the actual file. I want to be kind of editing up here in something that I can turn on and turn off pretty easily. I'll bring up a little bit of that. Cool. So we adjusted the white balance just a little bit as far as temperature. We also dipped a little bit in the shadows. The whites we brought up a little bit just to bring a little more color in. The blacks we also brought down. And the exposure just up just a hair. Now as far as these settings, I like to saturate a little bit just to give a little bit more color. You can adjust faded film if you want it to look super grainy and like epic. But if you're doing a sermon video, highly doubt you're going to use that. But that is my initial color edit. So we have our audio now, and our audio is a little quiet. So I'm going to boost it. I'm going to go 5 dB. Now, when you record audio for your sermon, it is always better to be quieter than to be overpowered, because you can always bring the gain back up. But if you're peaking, you're not going to be able to do anything to get rid of those peaks, which is going to be that sound. You don't want that. So right here, we have our audio. Now, our audio doesn't sound bad, but I edit everything, so we're going to mess with the audio a little bit. First thing I do, I use a denoiser. So I use a denoiser to trim some of like the extra noise that's in there. I take my graphic EQ and I drop it on there. Now I use mostly presets that I tweak. So I use this guy on lead vocal. Now you could use a parametric EQ. I kind of go back and forth. I like parametric because you can just kind of sit in here. You can pull things. So you can kind of mess with the frequencies. So what I like to do if I'm EQing is I'll kind of sweep through and pick out any frequencies I don't like by pushing them all the way up and then being like, cool, that sounds like trash. Let's lower that a little bit. Cool. And I tend to do subtractive EQ more than I do like additive EQ, I think it's called. So it sounds a lot cleaner just right there. So we've got 2 things done. Now what I like to do, I like to run a compressor. Now I brought the gain back down because I put that compressor on, and that broadcast setting kind of pumps things up, but it evens it out pretty well. Now this is the last part that I add in. I throw a reverb on. Now you have to stop the video when you're throwing the reverb on because it will it won't let you edit things while it's going. So I like to add just a hair. Now I adjusted the denoiser. So you can see the difference in my color correction versus what's there. It's a little gray. There we get some of the color back. I think it's a little hot. I might bring down the exposure. So I go into Lumetri, basic correction, and drop that guy down just a hair. Maybe I'll leave it like there. So if you were to go through, so now that's done. So we can see the video now. I mean, that looks pretty good to me. Now when I export it, again, I have settings that I use for presets. Again, as I export. Now I have one, it's called Tim's Preset. It's up here. Now what it is, it's an H.264 file. All I do is I make sure that my settings match, so it's 1920 by 1080. I go here, I go to render at maximum depth, and then I go to VBR here, and I change that to 2 pass from what it normally is. It's usually set to 1. And I bring the quality up, so the target bitrate and the maximum dip rate are up to 40, or bit rate are up to 40. I know somebody that they said, a YouTuber that I follow, that they use that when they're doing 4K video, but I like to have that deeper bit rate because the file's just a little bit beefier there, and when you export it, it doesn't lose as much quality when it gets compressed by YouTube. And then I use maximum render quality, which is, again, it's just gonna try to render that file in a higher file format. So I hit export, and I let the computer do its thing. It's gonna take a few minutes to do this. After it finishes, I'm gonna do a side-by-side comparison of what it was pre-edit and post-edit for you to see audio and color. So we're gonna let this do its thing while we wait for that. We'll just kind of chill here for a second. So right now, my video is exporting. I'm just waiting on that to finish. It's almost done though. Well, it's in the front half of it being done. But after it finishes, I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison. This mic's annoying me. I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison of the 2 files. So the file with the color correction and the file with the color correction and the audio edited, and the file that didn't have either of those 2 things done on it. Just to kind of show why I do that. It's not that one file looks bad or the other looks better. It's not just that, but that is part of it. And then I'm just going to share 1 or 2 things that I think often are missed in the kind of content creating strategy that churches could use. It's just something I think that is easy to do, and I think it could take just a couple of minutes to do, but I don't think churches do it, and that is pre and post roll ads. Now this isn't like YouTube giving you ads unless you have a huge subscriber count. You can do that, but then you're on the risk of them just throwing some weird ads on there. But what I'm saying is, let's say as an example, your church has a podcast. Cool. Maybe your pre-roll before the videos. Hey guys, this is whoever you are from the church. Thanks for checking out our sermon this week. Don't forget, you could take this with you on the go via our podcast, and then link up the podcast in that description. Boom. There you go. Now you have people that might be following you on YouTube that aren't following you on your podcast, and now you're kind of cross-promoting. Your post-roll ad could be something similar, I know a lot of churches that do the post roll ad as, hey guys, thanks for checking out this video. We can't wait for this Sunday as we continue week 2 of blah blah blah, whatever it is. But you could be using those pre and post roll sections of your video to invite people to something next, to take the next steps. Now, the other thing that you can do on YouTube that I don't know if people take advantage of is kind of the end card where it says, hey, subscribe to our channel and this and that. You could do that. It's built in. Like, it just, you can just add it to every video on YouTube in your YouTube Studio app, or you could do it like this. It's a video of whoever you're like online, whoever is kind of like the captain of your online presence, or somebody just on staff. Maybe just switch it out every once in a while, saying, hey, thanks for checking out our video. We'd love to have you with us on a Sunday. We meet Sundays at whatever, at this location, and Sundays at whatever, at this location. If you have multi-site, if you don't, the bottom line is there's space in there for you to be asking and adding an invite to engage your people and bring them to something next. Now, a video is a great safe way for someone to try out and see what you're doing without having to really commit to anything, because it's just a video. A podcast is a little easier because you don't even have to watch anything. You can just listen to it. But the bottom line is, if you're constantly inviting those people to things or giving them that next step to connect to, you're not going to catch any fish if you don't throw a hook in the water. So if you don't throw something out there as an invite to try to engage people with you and with what you're putting out, how are people going to connect? Because let's be real, you could have the best Facebook page in the world, but if you don't have people engaging with your stuff, or the best YouTube channel in the world, or the best whatever Instagram game, but if you don't have people engaging with your stuff and you're not plugging them into something next, you're not going to grow. So this is just a simple step that I've been working on, that I'm trying to get better at, and I hope you'll work at it too, because I think it's got potential. I also think there's more that can be done. Sorry, I'm going to go on a rant about church if I don't stop, so I'm going to stop here. Also, this video isn't sponsored, but I just want to kind of drop one other thing in here. If you have the Adobe Creative Cloud and you have Adobe Audition, which, do I even have that anymore? Ooh, I don't have it anymore. Let's download that. If you use Adobe Audition, what you have there is you can take your video, take your audio file, drop it into Audition, export it there, and guess what? Now you have your podcast audio. Now, I think you should do the same thing that you would do, like pre and post roll ads. But yeah, I think that gives you the ability, like, you just killed 2 birds with one stone. You now have your audio for your podcast, and you have your video for online. Once you have your main video, that also gives you the option to take that, chop it all up, and you can use clips of that for your social media. And just kind of engage your people with the message a little bit more during the week. So I'm downloading Audition now because I just realized I haven't used that in a while. So even I haven't been using that. Again, I haven't edited a sermon video in a little while. I'm trying to get back into the practice of it, though, to kind of help out at the church that I'm at, because I think that's an area where I could help and give some time. So I'm going to try that. Alright, so what we got here, I edited the videos. It's really hard to show you what these look like, but this is without the color grade and without the audio editing.
Easter, most Christians around the world,
so you can hear it. It doesn't sound bad. It's a little dry.
On their relationship with God.
It doesn't have as much body to it.
In order to
So we go back, and this is what the edited version sounds like. Make sure we're at the same kind of spot.
Easter, most Christians around the world will take time
so you just hear
to
that?
reflect on their
There's
relationship
a little more color
with God.
to
How
the
they
visual
wanna
in the video.
in order to go deeper to get.
So what all we did is we worked on the audio, and audio is one of the most important parts to putting out video. You need things that sound good, that aren't full of noise. I mean, granted, Premiere has some things in it that you can use to take out some of those noises, but you can't, I'm going to use this kind of rough term, but like, you can't polish a turd. If you have crap audio going in, it's going to sound like crap. So it's, yeah, you can spend time and edit it and make it work as best as you can, but ultimately, if you have crap audio going in, it doesn't matter how good you are at editing the video on the back end, it's not going to sound good. So you want to make sure that you're setting your inputs and what you're sending to the camera well, so that you're not peaking the camera out, or you're not sending enough audio. Because if you have to crank the gain on the audio, you're going to get all this noise, and you might be able to get some of that out with like a denoiser and things like that, but you got to make sure you got good quality coming in, and that you got a good volume coming in. Those are kind of the important things. And again, this is my style. This is just how I edit. I like to kind of take the voice and give it more like life again on the recording, so it's not quite so boring. But that's just how I shoot. That doesn't mean that has to be how you shoot, but that is how I like to edit videos and edit sermons and put them online. So for me, I just like the way this sounds. I like the body.
This season, if you're
like,
familiar
it sounds
with the
like
Christian
he's in a room
calendar,
again.
it's called
It's not
Lent.
boring. It's not dead.
Lent runs
That's the
from
reverb.
next Wednesday all
Some of these
the
cuts
way
might be a little
to
rough,
Easter.
but that was me
And as a
cutting
church, we
on
want
Sunday
to invite you
with
to
two cameramen
reflect.
who,
Reflect on
I
your
mean,
life.
it's a live
Where
event, but they
you?
are volunteers.
And where is your...
But again, that's with the edited audio and the edited video.
Go deeper to get to know him.
It's the same volume,
This season, if you're familiar with the Christian
same
calendar,
kind of
it's
color. It
called
doesn't look bad. It's just a
Lent.
little gray.
Lent runs
So
from
by
next Wednesday
adjusting
all
some of
the
the
way
saturation,
to
some of
Easter.
things like that,
And as a
and also
church, we want to
up-resing the
invite
quality,
you
now
to
we have this
reflect.
quality of a video
Reflect
going
on your
on.
life. Where are you? And where is your...
So, I don't know where your church is at making video and posting video online, but if there's anything that I can do to help you to make that process a little bit easier, or to help you work with your volunteers on recording video a little bit better or editing video, let me know. This is something I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about video and people doing video well, and this is the next area that I'm looking to step into. So let's connect and see if we can do this better together. Thanks again for checking out this video. I can't wait to hear from you guys and to see how we could work together to do this better. Thanks again. Have a good week.